Hi guys, welcome back to Christy's Book Corner. I'm your host Christy Mason, and today's chapter in Finding Jacob Wetterling is called The Box, and it's chapter 9, and it's very short, so don't worry, so let's get right into it. Chapter 9, The Box. Early case is dying to be solved. The answer is out there somewhere. It's about going back to the basics. It's about making sure all that is were I's were dotted and T's were crossed. Dotting your I's and crossing your T's. I like that. The answer is out there somewhere. Everett Doolittle, retired BCA Cold Case Unit. John Douglas, the legendary FBI profile based in Corinthos, Virginia, who developed the profile of Jacob's likely abductor in 1989, has co-authored several books about his experiences and the cases he worked on over the course of his career in law enforcement. Mindhunter, Law and Order, and Journey into Darkness are particularly well-written inside books. Douglas has noted that an interesting phenomenon rings true in almost every wide-ranging investigation of a crime. In almost all cases, investigators had luckily interviewed the individuals responsible early on in the investigation. Douglas had a reputation for consistent and remarkable accuracy in profiling criminals. His standard opening procedure was to learn as much detail as possible about the crime scene itself, including any and all physical evidence, the location, immediate surroundings, points of access and ingress, and so on. What he did not want to know about when profiling a case was information about any potential suspects. Rather, he would use information from the crime scene to develop a profile of likely predator. The point in all of Douglas's efforts was to help investigators narrow down a field of likely candidates to pursue as likely suspects, depending on the types of crime, characteristics of the victimology, and the demographics of the victims themselves. Douglas was able to correctly peg and range of characteristics that would often prove to be stunningly precise. Based on the crime scene analysis and behavioral science, he was able to consistently predict a criminal's approximate age, race, physical deformalities or different defects, educational, military level, military experience, and occupation. Oftentimes, Douglas was able to predict problems associated with the criminal's life history, such as their relationship with one or more parents, social interactions, and past criminal history. Douglas explained that intensive research of serial criminals, such as child molesters, I don't want to say that word anymore, and murderers, indicated that such persons often exhibit two or other common persecutors to their violent behavior. Bedwetting and arson post-offense behaviors often include a range of behavior patterns, including returning to the scene of the crime, involving oneself in the investigation, closely following the media attention to the case, accumulating newspaper clippings or videos, and moving into a new place of residence. And in the case of a murder, investigators should expect the suspect to revisit the grave on anniversaries of the crime, particularly on or around the first anniversary. Criminal behavioral profiling also suggests that a child abductor does not just wake up one day and decide to abduct a child. Rather, the criminal builds up from a base of some lower levels of defiant, behaviors such as child pornography or molesting an acquaintance often triggers the buildup from the molestation to child abduction. Their stressors could come from a number of sources, including family problems, marital issues, sexual dysfunction, financial woes, and loss of a job, or so forth, and so forth. Going back to the beginning of the Wetterling investigation, John Douglas offered the following psychological profile of Jacob's likely abductor: a white male, aged 25 to 35 years old, very low self-image, may have some form of physical deformity such as acne or scars, probably employed in a low-skilled occupation with little contact with the public, may have had a recent stressful event in his life which influenced the high-risk approach to abduction. High-risk crime scenario and the threat of a gun indicates abductor may have attempted an abduction previously and failed. Like Jared's case. People familiar with the individual would likely notice a heightened sense of anxiety or stress since the abduction. Abductor probably committed a similar crime in the past. As noted above, in any wide-ranging criminal case, it is more likely than not that within 2 weeks of the commencement of the investigation, the person responsible for the crime is already known to investigators, and probably has already been interviewed. In the Wetterling case, the list of potential suspects who had been interviewed included several hundred individuals. In all likelihood, Jacob's abductor was already in the box. In the box, that's the name of the title. His name was somewhere in the files. Many times over the years, cold case reviewers would routinely go back to the files to review the case again from the beginning. Anytime a new investigative team at the SCSO would take over the case, they would review everything again. But at Al Garber's point out in his book, Striving to be the Best, a cold case review from outside agencies would sometimes be met with reluctance from the primary investigative agency, the Stearns County Sheriff's Office. This is what natural phenomenon and as Garber further suggests, each generation of investigators has a tendency to develop leads that had been generated on their own watch. Unfortunately, that means that older leads and information may be overlooked in favor of more reluctant, recently developed theories of the case. Detectives are human, and human nature dictates that when pursuing a particular theory of a case, an investigator may intend to process information in a manner that reflects their bias towards a particular theory. This natural tendency may explain why second and third generation teams in the Wetterling case drifted away from an original working theory of the crime to something altogether different over the course of time. By the fall of 2014, there seemed to be a disparate but unspoken air of oblivion hanging over the case. With no solution after a quarter century, it seemed that the mystery drifted off the landscape, although, altogether, some suspects had already died and other suspects or witnesses were not getting any younger. If someone was going to be done to break the case open, it had to be done soon. In August, Patty Wetterling asked Sheriff John Sanner and Captain Pam Jensen to take another look at the case from the beginning. Such a request from the family alone would not be enough to prompt another complete review. but apparently they found significant reasons to do just that. Soon after, a meeting was held in Stearns County, including representatives from the FBI, SCSO, and Minnesota Bureau of Criminal Apprehensions. FBI Special Agent Shane Ball last presented a proposal to form a cold case unit to take one more crack at the Wetterling case. He would bring in an FBI team. Card team. He would bring the FBI agents who were mostly familiar with the details of the investigation. They would take a truly fresh approach. The primary pros of the card teams is to provide field investigative, tactical, and resource assistance to state and local investigators in the case of non-family child abductions. The problem was established in 2005 and consists of 5 regionally based teams comparison a total of 60 members. The teams work with the FBI's Behavioral Analysis Unit and the National Center for the Analysis of Violent Crime Coordinators and Child Exploitation Task Force members. Ball had recently been given information about a man who was suggested as a suspect in 1990. Danny Heinrich. It was a name that had never surfaced publicly, but had certainly been connected to the case early on. In an unlikely twist, the source of that information was none other than a man who was once investigated himself as a suspect in the Wetterling case. Darren Allen Hart, who was at the very moment in 2014 under heavy scrutiny by the SCSO and BCA. As the 25th anniversary of the Wetterling kidnapping passed, there would be one more cold case review of the case files as FBI agent Shane Ball directed investigative efforts back to the box instead of back to the board. That's the end of chapter 9. Thank you so much for watching, and tomorrow we will do chapter 10. It is a long one again, so I'm going to have to break that up into 2 parts, just like I did chapter 5. And then after that, we are almost done. We got 2 chapters after that. So thank you so much for watching. Please subscribe to my channel, like, and comment. And I am taking book requests, so if you have any books that you have that I have, I'll be happy to read them next month. But there is a deadline, so September 30th is when I will be doing my next, at the end of this book, I will tell you what I want to do, and then by September 30th, if I don't hear any suggestions, any book requests, I am going to do that book. Okay? So, thank you. And remember to dare to dream, guys.